you're going to die. You're going to leave me a widow. You're going to wreck this thing on the way home, and I'll have nothing to show for it but this pile of junk we just paid too much money for. Well, my wife and I, we love to travel, and, we travel what we could afford. We started out with tent camping, going across the country, visiting the state parks, hiking a lot, and we graduated up to, we actually bought a small pop-up camper that's designed to be towed behind a motorcycle. And we towed it behind my Prius. Exactly 1 year later, we had been to 41 states, 4 Canadian provinces in a year, going all over the country, still getting 35, 40 miles to the gallon towing this little designed for a motorcycle camper. Well, one time we were coming back from Prince Edward Island, and we made it into Pennsylvania, and it was this huge storm, tornado warnings. We had a campground reservation nearby, but the campground got flooded out, had to do emergency evacuations. Like, well, where are we going to stay? We ended up getting a hotel that night. Well, in the hotel, we were talking, and my wife says, I think we're ready to graduate up to something a little bit nicer. And we did some research, and being a fan of Toyota, in the 80s and early 90s, Toyota made a 1-ton dually truck, and the RV manufacturers bought a million of them, turned them into great campers. So we hunted and found one of them, and it was for sale in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Called the guy up, he listed it. It doesn't leak, has new tires, runs great, drives great. I'm like, we'll be there in the morning, cash in hand. So drove the 7 hours to Chattanooga, get there, walking up to it, immediately I knew, oh, this is bad. Yes, it had brand new tires on it, but had the inexpensive Walmart car tires, load range B rated tires. It's supposed to have load range D tires on it. I mean, you could push the side of it and you could see the sidewalls of these tires flex. So just sitting there, it was already overloaded. The no leaks, he lied about that. Has a cab over bed, open the door, and the smell of the mold just immediately hit you in the face. The bed over the cab had an 8-inch thick memory foam mattress, and it was black with mold. You lift it up, underneath it was a layer of 1-inch thick plywood that they had put in it, and they tried to fix the leaks from the inside out, not the outside in. So they just compounded. It had great stuff, foam and latex caulk. Underneath that was a layer of shag carpet, 80s shag carpet over the original bed platform. Crank it up, drive it. First time I hit the brakes, it was barely stopping. Had to stand on the brake pedal with both feet. Was wallowing all over the road because of horrible car tires. I kept hearing this clunking noise, and I looked. All the suspension bushings were rotten. The leaf springs were shot. It was riding on the bump stops, front and rear. Pulled it back in. I was like, yeah, you misrepresented this thing. You said it doesn't leak. Here's all this. New tires, wrong tires. It's junk. So we're not. Just started to walk away. He goes, make me an offer. I don't know if I want this or not. He goes, no, really, make me an offer. I made him a ridiculously low offer. He said, sold, shook my hand. Oh, great. Now I got another project. Get the paperwork signed, hand the cash over, call my insurance company, put insurance on it, and I have no license plate. Take off, heading back home. Pull into Knoxville, Tennessee to get gas. Gassed it up, got in, hit the starter. It was dead. Didn't even click or anything. Oh, great. What am I going to do now? Jump it off, crank it up, go to an auto parts store nearby, pull in, they check it. The voltage regulator was bad on this thing. They said, well, we don't have an alternator in stock, but there's one down the road. So sent my wife down there to pick it up, buy a cheap set of tools, and quickly had the alternator loose but not removed. And I remembered on the Toyota engines, have to pull this radiator hose out to get the alternator out. Put the alternator back in, belt back on. Wife come in, here's your new alternator. And I said, plan B. I spelled it all out for her, told her exactly what we're going to do. And her exact words were, you're going to die. You're going to leave me a widow. You're going to wreck this thing on the way home, and I'll have nothing to show for it but this pile of junk we just paid too much money for. We went into Harbor Freight. We bought a generator, a gas can, a battery charger, and a pack of zip ties. Put the generator in the back of the RV, strapped it down, fired it up, set the battery charger on the front passenger seat, run the cables out the vent window onto the battery, zip tied it together, let it charge the battery up a little bit, cranked it up, it run fine. We drove the 7 hours home, had the little vent windows blowing fresh air on me, windows in the back, so, couldn't smell the exhaust from the generator. Made it all the way home on this thing. And of course, every 30 minutes, she's like, "Are you okay? You're not about to pass out from the carbon monoxide? Do you need to stop, take a break?" Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Well, get it home, pulled all the junk out the mold, fixed the leak, started ordering the proper tires, fixed the front and rear suspension, new springs, sway bars, everything. And one of the first things that we did to it, there's a certain event that happens in Atlanta every year where a group of us decide that Atlanta needs a certain particular brand of beer. And I didn't have a car for the event. So instead, I showed up, camped out, and had a time clock. And we hung out in this RV. That year, it got down to 20 degrees and snowed in Atlanta, and I like to froze to death. We had a great time. Turns out the RV, people started in the community wanting to see it at other places. Drove it up to Travis Bell's backyard 400 go-kart race. After the race, on the way home, taking the back roads, because it's got the Toyota four-cylinder, and you only go so fast, so keep it off the highway. Going through the back roads, going down a mountain hill, and a brake pedal hits the floor. Like, I'm stomping a brake. It's not slowing down. Reach and grab the weird parking brake handle on the Toyota trucks, and it comes all the way out and does nothing. This time I'm in a bit of a panic mode. Start shifting down the transmission, finally got it slow. Get down to the bottom, pull off and look, and brake fluid is just pouring out of one of the tires on the rear. Had a little bit of brake fluid. Luckily, 2 miles up the road, I was never more happy to find a Dollar General in the middle of nowhere. And they had 6 of the big jugs of brake fluid. Bought them all out. 10 miles down the road was the auto parts store. They had the brake cylinder in stock. When I pulled the drum off, I couldn't see it at first, but things are just falling out and hitting the ground. I moved the drum out and looked, and there's a mangled up, bent brake pads, the springs, everything. I don't know what happened. I'm 500 miles from home in the middle of nowhere thinking, how am I going to get this thing home? Call my wife, tell her what's going on. She's like, just get it towed, just get it towed. And I'm like, tow bills for this thing's going to be about what we paid for it. I'm not doing that. So finally I had an aha moment. I called my wife up and I said, plan B. Your plan A was towing, but I got a plan B. She says, am I going to be a widow? Am I going to die? You going to get this home safe? I said, no, trust me, I got it. I cut the brake line leading to that wheel, folded it up, took a hammer, sealed it up, used the axle tube as an anvil, got some more brake fluid, bled the other 3 brake lines, drove it home 500 miles on 3 working brakes, where it's still that way today. Because turns out finding those parts for that dually axle, they're unobtainium. Now, I have recently secured an axle, so that's going to get fixed. But the next year, there was another event in Atlanta. But some group of people decided Atlanta needed even more beer. And I drove it all the way down from North Carolina to Atlanta on 3 brakes and all the way back home. Having a lot of fun in this RV. Hopefully, over the winter, it'll get some proper restoration, be mechanically more sound, and show up to some other events. And maybe Atlanta will need more beer again. Who knows?
If you're ready for your next adventure, you're gonna need the right car, and the best way to buy your next car is with the help of Premier Financial Services. The Simple Lease from Premier Financial is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You get all the benefits of a traditional loan, like the ability to accumulate equity, pay it off at any time, and they give you a perfectly easy to understand amortization table, but you also get the benefits of a lease, the low payment, the flexible terms, the low down payments, but also you get to use some certain tax benefits that leases entitle you to. They've taken great care of me, and I know they'll take great care of you, so check them out now at the link in the description below.